Hi. I wanted to speak to you today about pivoting and why it is so important. Okay. So, when I was younger, I used to, like, when I was in my 20s and in my teenage years, I used to hate reading. And I used to hate anything that would push me outside of my comfort zone. But I've learnt throughout the years that unless you're not constantly learning, growing, and changing, and unless you don't have that type of a mindset, you're not going to get very far. And what I've also noticed, because I've been a career contractor for like 21 odd years or so, is that employers actually like it when they see people who think outside the square. You know, when people have interests outside of work, which then can also be reflected inside of work. For example, over the past 20 odd months, I have been doing a coaching course, right? And that coaching course has helped me to be able to communicate better, to be able to build stronger relationships, to be able to dig deeper into the heart of problems that are happening. And with me being a project manager, I need those skills, and those skills are not something that you can just learn through doing professional development courses like the project management methodologies and so forth. Those are skills that you need to learn through doing personal development. So sometimes you need to think outside the square and think, well, okay, so I'm a bit short in this area professionally. I know it'll challenge me, but is there something that I can do in my personal life that will help me to improve those skills, but then also to be able to use what you've learnt in a professional manner and give your employers more value. It's not easy these days with regards to getting work. And, I hate being in and out of work all the time, but I've had to be because that's the way that project management is. That's the way the industry is, right? So I've learnt that in my downtimes, in between roles, that if I'm doing something to personally and professionally develop myself, and then I actually put that on my CV, they can actually see that I'm not sitting around wasting my time waiting for the next job to come along. I'm actually improving myself personally and professionally so that I can get the next job, so that I can give them more value, so that I can show them, who I am, what my mindset's about, where I'm at in life. And employers really, really like that. They don't want to see someone who's set in their ways with what they're doing all the time, and they don't want to push past their comfort zone into doing something that will actually help them to improve. They want to see people who, sure, they may have challenges, but with those challenges, they actually look at different ways to overcome those challenges, whether that's personally or professionally, and that you can bring that into any situation, personal or professional, and give value. That's what it's about these days. It's not just about having those professional qualifications or even having that that sort of experience. It's just not. You have to be working on yourself constantly, learning, growing, and changing. And you know what? I did the online public speakers boot camp recently, because I have this massive fear of public speaking. And yes, I can speak to you on Facebook Lives and that sort of stuff, right? With an ad hoc topic. But when it comes down to planning it to what I'm going to say beforehand, rehearsing, and you know, memorizing those lines and then saying it in front of complete strangers, I used to get a blank. My mind after a little while would go blank, and I wouldn't be able to remember what I was going to say. So like doing things like that to help you improve and to actually give you the experience and, you know, the practice you need to get out there and do it professionally is a big plus. And employers like that. They like to see that. And you can put that on your CV as well. And, you know, that also puts you ahead of everyone else in your industry because you're doing things differently. You're thinking outside the square. You know, you're putting a little piece of your personality and who you are and what you're about into your CV and into your cover letters so that they can see that, you know, you're worth employing. And you know what? Yeah, when I first started in contracting in the ICT industry, I used to get thousands upon thousands of knockbacks from my applications. Did I let that stop me? No. You know, I've contracted in IT support, desktop support, systems admin, that sort of stuff for 10 years prior to getting into project management, right? And in project management, you know, when I first started, that was a challenge. That really, really challenged me. And I'm so glad that I stayed in the project management area because it challenges me and it helps me to grow and it helps me to see areas of me that I can look at from a different angle and say, well, I can do this personally, which then I can actually bring into my professional life and make myself better in that area. So think about that when you're applying for work, when you're, you know, even in interviews, it's good to actually say, well, you know what, you know, there is one question which they will ask in an interview is, so tell me a bit about yourself. Now, with that question, what they want to hear is a brief overview of your employment history, yes, but they also want to know, you know, what ways you have worked on yourself personally and professionally. And they also want to know how you can bring value to them and that position, as well as how you're going to fit in. What things can you bring to the table and how do you think you can fit in? And, you know, that question is probably the most hardest because they will ask you that probably in the first one or two questions of the interview. And that's the one that will make the biggest impression. So if you get that right, if you get your mindset right, if you do things differently to everyone else and get yourself ahead of the game, then you're more than likely to get the interviews and you're more than likely to get the jobs. So I hope that this helps you. I just thought that I would raise it with you. And yeah, I'll talk to you next time. All right, bye.